Welcome to another edition of Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about the Tennessee Titans. Now, there have been some interesting thoughts, both positive and negative, on the draft front. But here to actually talk about that is Mr. Turron Davenport. Thank you again for coming on, man.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But before we get to that, of course, I have to get it off your chest segment. Something that I have to talk about that's kind of, on my mind. And that's definitely something on social media. More specific, dudes being disrespectful on social media. Every time I go on there, I expect to see something different sometimes, but I go on there and I see some dude being disrespectful because the actual woman knows sports. Literally give you an example. I'm watching a timeline and someone has a man says something about something. Woman disagrees with him. The man says, "Hey, why don't you get back in the kitchen? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that?" And I'm like, okay,
Yeah, that's completely uncalled for.
very much uncalled for. And I'm like, dudes, fellas, listen. There are women that know sports. There are women that can have conversations about sports. So please stop the foolishness. It is breaking my nerves. You're making us all look bad. I had to say it, Teron, man. It's frustrating. I keep seeing it, and my homie Meg, I keep seeing her post something, and then somebody comes at her with the talking about her being in the kitchen or not knowing sports and things like that. And it's just completely frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. Many of these very knowledgeable women you've had on the show, whether it's Karita Parks, you look at Sheena Quick, there's so many. Monica McNutt does an awesome job. She's fun to watch. Jamel Hill, when she used to talk shop, there's so many women who are very knowledgeable of not just football, tennis, basketball, everything. And I think that you really have to be careful because some of the things that I see, you could end up not being existent anymore, canceled, so to speak. So, yeah, and plus, beyond that, it's not right it's unnecessary. These women have earned respect, and they do their thing, and that's just the way I look at it.
Yeah, I just had to open the show with that one because that was just on my mind because I keep seeing it over and over again. But speaking of feeling disrespected, some would say the Titans and some of their draft picks may feel a little disrespected as well by those that are actually grading their draft. From the offensive lineman being the first pick to Will Levis coming here to just different people that have been selected by Rand Carthon and the Tennessee Titans to be a part of this team. We're going to start, of course, with something that didn't happen though, and that was a potential trade. Now, it was talked about before the draft about potential trade, the Titans going up to number 3 potentially, and then also trading for a veteran wide receiver named DeAndre Hopkins. Neither of those happened. Do you have any idea what happened with that, or if that actually was indeed true?
Well, there were talks about moving up to 3. Now, DeAndre Hopkins, that part of it, I don't believe is true. I think that was just, a little bit of conjecture, so to speak. That's really what I know, that there were talks, but obviously it was for a particular player, and CJ Stroud, who I reported was the guy that they liked back in March. So he wasn't there. The trade fell apart, and at 11, they took Skoronski. That's more or less what I know to have been the situation.
All right, definitely taking that's Peter Skoronski is a physical guy. Now, watching his tape, I mean, watching him speak, it's exciting to kind of think about the things he can do, especially for Derrick Henry. And the Titans took him with the 11th overall pick. As far as the fit, what did you think of the fit when they selected him as their first round pick this year?
It made sense, really. It made a lot of sense considering what they want to do. You look at how Aaron Brewer spoke about everything being up tempo and then being athletes along the offensive line. He is just that. So it adds to what they are looking to do running the football. And he's not bad at pass pro. He's a guy you could bump in and play left guard. He could compete for the left tackle spot. I personally would have him play left guard, and guard is an important position. You'll hear people say, hey, you don't draft a guard there. It's okay if that guard is a Pro Bowl player, a high caliber player for years to come. That's a fine pick.
Right. An example of a fine picking a guard in the first round, just to give people kind of a little vision of that. Ben Grubb, when he was playing at Auburn, he got picked by the Baltimore Ravens in the first round. So that's
Yeah.
an
You
example.
can even
of
look within the division, right? Quentin Nelson. Now, I'm not saying the Colts have won or lost because of him, but he's was a big part when that offensive line was rolling. They were competitive.
Right. That's correct. That's correct. Now, just in your opinion, from what I've gathered from you, you basically see him as a left guard more than a left tackle, perhaps.
I think he could play either, but it's just with this circumstance, having signed Andre Dillard to the contract, he's probably going to be the left tackle for the next 2 years, provided that he plays well. Now, after that, okay, you could take Skoronski and bump him out to tackle, but in the meantime, you have him playing guard. And I think you look at that athleticism of Aaron Brewer, Skoronski, and then Andre Dillard. That's a pretty athletic left side. And this team at times, they take that run left moniker and they roll with that, and they can still do it with those guys. It's just Dillard, little bit of a question with the run blocking. He's more solid at pass pro.
Yeah, definitely. Being that he's a former tight end playing tackle, so I can definitely get the pass blocking with the sweet feet. What I would also say is Brunskill is probably going to be on the backside of that, and then Petit Ferrer is what you're thinking.
Right. And I think that from right to left is a pretty athletic group. I personally would like that offensive line. I think it's in good shape.
Yeah, definitely. Going into this draft, one of the concerns was the offensive line for the Tennessee Titans, but another concern was the wide receiver spot, and that was one of the biggest criticisms that some have had of the draft, is that they did not take a wide receiver until the seventh round. Now, I have to shout out this wide receiver, Colton Dow, UT Martin Skyhawk. I am a former UT Martin Skyhawk, so I have to shout him out. Hope he does well. But as far as him going at the seventh round and them kind of waiting that long, did it kind of were you kind of shocked by how long they waited to pick a wide receiver?
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised from day 2 all the way to the end of the draft, to be honest with you. I understood the trade up to get Will Levis. That made sense. But you look in the third round, Tajay Spears, who by all accounts is going to be an outstanding running back, even contribute this year. I thought there would be some receivers that they could have taken there. And then you come back in the fifth, right? You got Josh Wiley. They took him, and then they took Jalen Duncan. And I'm like, wow, they really – because the whole time I'm looking at Xavier Hutchinson, A.T. Perry, these type, even C.J. Johnson from East Carolina. I thought at some point they'll bring one of those guys in. But as you mentioned, Colton Dow is plenty talented. He's the guy Rand Carthon said that once they selected him, he got text messages from other GMs and personnel types saying that was their guy. That's the guy they were going to get in the 7th. So let's see. You roll the ball out there, see what he could do. We'll see it next week at rookie mini camps. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember the game he had against the University of Tennessee. I'm not to say that University of Tennessee's defensive backs were great, but he was still out there doing any and everything he wanted to the entire game. It's just there's nothing they could do with him.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and that's a part of what you're asked to do as a guy from a non-Power 5. When you go against a Power 5, you got to level up, and that's what he did. So I shot him out for that, and that's something that, Emory Hunt, football game plan, CBS Sports, he actually put me on to him and told me. I had him on 2 weeks before the draft, and I said, hey, look, who's a sleeper? And he mentioned Dow.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's a big guy that can run too. 4'4", people. 4'4". So I think he has a great opportunity to make the team, to be honest, with what the wide receiver room looks like. Now, a quick question I did have for you. Racey McMath, is he still under contract or is he a free agent?
Yeah, no, they got Racey McMath under contract. He's in the mix. He's a guy that they had high hopes on. I remember that week of training camp, everyone was like, oh, Racey McMath, because he beat a couple guys deep. Then he had the injury, and it just was a tough year for him. But he is a guy in the mix, sure.
All right, and definitely looking forward to seeing that because I still remember the pass Malik threw to him, a deep pass against the Baltimore Ravens in the
Yeah, the
preseason game
48
last
yarder,
year.
the corner route.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, honestly, he has all the ability. It's just a matter of can he stay healthy, in my opinion.
Yeah, hey, he
But
has to learn to run through the catch a little bit better also and track the ball better as a receiver. You have all that speed. Don't decrease it by running with your hands out. You got to throw the late hands, right? Track it down, throw the late hands at just the last second to catch it. So this way you can run through the catch and get yards after it.
all right, yeah, I did kind of mention it. I mentioned the Malik Willis. We're going to kind of get into the second round pick, which was Will Levis, and
Mhm.
versus Malik Willis. We're going to get into that right after this quick commercial break. Whether it's local or long distance, Milligan Logistics has you covered. Milligan Logistics was established in 2020 with over a combined 15 years of experience in trucking, hauling, and logistics, along with over 50 years collectively of project management experience. Again, whether it's near or far, Milligan Logistics has you covered with quality service, efficiency while taking pleasure in exceeding clients' expectations. Need goods moved short or long distance? Milligan Logistics has you covered. Just reach out to them at 615-354-2618. That's 615-354-2618. Or you can send them an email at milliganlogistics@gmail.com. Again, that's milliganlogistics@gmail.com. Commercial break. And before we went to commercial break, we kind of talked about Malik Willis and Will Levis. Now, for those that aren't aware, which you probably should be, but Will Levis was the second round pick for the Tennessee Titans this year, a quarterback out of Kentucky, which some rated very, very high, some rated very, very low in some aspects in terms of, looking at the first round or beyond that. Now, compare that to last year, the Titans drafted Malik Willis in the third round. So now you have two quarterbacks you've drafted back-to-back years. My question for you, Turron, is with Ryan Tannehill being the starter, and now you got Malik Willis and you got Will Levis, what does this mean for Malik Willis in your opinion?
Yeah, it doesn't mean too much good, I'll tell you that much. I'm not going to say they gave up on him, but I mean, when you move up to get a quarterback the way that they did, he more or less is going to be earmarked to be the guy of the future. I think what it says to Malik Willis is come in and compete and try to win a job. At this point, his best bet is to win the backup job. He's going to have somewhat of an advantage just having been in the league a year, but you look at that year that he was in the league, it's not the same as it is for a lot of rookies because he didn't get to see full speed action as much. So there's a whole developmental process that he still has to undertake. And it's going to be just a competition, man. I don't want to say that they'll give up on him, but I mean, if they carry three quarterbacks, I'll be surprised. And obviously, they're not going to not carry Will Levis, and Ryan Tannehill is probably going to be the guy. So it couldn't leave Willis as the odd man out.
Right. Or I don't know if they pass that rule about holding three active quarterbacks yet, or no, that didn't pass, did it?
No, that hasn't gone through all the way yet.
Okay. I just was wondering. I was saying in that case they may, but of course, with the rules standing the way they are, then no, definitely.
Yeah, but even on the roster, the 53-man roster itself, like that was in regards to the game day actives. But on the 53-man roster itself, I don't know if they'll be able to carry three quarterbacks.
Okay. Now, as far as Will Levis in general, besides drinking coffee with mustard and eating bananas whole, what do you think of his potential in terms of on this team or what you've seen from him?
Yeah, he has to learn to be more careful with the football. That's the big problem. There are times we see him throw into triple coverage because he thinks and he's confident enough that he could fit the ball into really tight spots. So you'll see him try to do that, and that leads to turnovers. I think really it's a good match just because he's a big arm quarterback. He's mobile. That play action, moving him around type of thing that the Titans are going to do, I think that will definitely match what he is capable of doing. The downfield passing desire that they have matches his big arm. So those are some of the things. But like I said, it's just keeping that decision-making right and not being careless with the football, especially with a defensive-minded head coach. So 23 interceptions over the last 2 years. Obviously, each one has its own story. Not all of them were Will Levis's fault. There were some, drops. There were some times where receivers were supposed to be in a certain place. Then there were other times where he had no business throwing the ball where he did. So it's just a matter of sorting through all of that and figuring out, okay, how is this guy going to be good?
Yeah, another question I did have for him is when he leaves the pocket, it seems like he's a magnet for contact too, instead of getting down or sliding, things like that too.
Yeah, that's the Josh Allen in him.
Oh boy, but the bad thing for him is there's only one Josh Allen. But overall, the Titans drafted heavily offensively, taking 2 offensive linemen, 1 tight end, 1 wide receiver, 1 running back, and a quarterback. What are just your overall thoughts for the draft this year for the Titans?
It's all about value and athleticism. You look at pretty much all of the guys, they had a high relative athletic score. I mean, Colton Dowell, for example, this guy 40-inch vertical, 4.4 speed. His height, his weight is all there. I don't remember how many reps on the bench, but I think it was a good amount. You look at Skoronski, you look at Jalen Duncan, you look at Tajay Spears. These are all pretty athletic guys. I know Spears ran in the 4.5s or whatever, but he's definitely someone you watch him play, you see it. So I think that was the theme. It was about future as well, because you're talking about the future quarterback, the future running back. You got Derrick Henry and you got Ryan Tannehill in limbo. I think this showed that they're gearing up to move on from those guys.
Well, definitely an interesting thing to think about is Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill potentially not being here. But hey, like in life, all good things have to come to an end. Now the show is coming to an end, but we're not all the way to the end just yet. I do have a nice little game for you. Got 5 questions, 2 answers, and 1 choice. Some of it football, maybe a little bit of music as well. Are you ready? Ready?
Yeah. It froze for a second. I think we're good.
Okay, cool. First answer, running back Tajay Spears or tight end Josh Wiley? Who has the more immediate impact?
I think Josh Wiley will, because I think they're going to run a lot of 12 personnel. But make no mistake about it, that, third down opportunity that Spears has is good too. But I'm going to go with Wiley because I think they're going to move him around and have him in packages with Chig Okonkwo.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely see that because, Chig is basically the only tight end on the roster at this point.
Right, you got Trevon Wesco too, though.
But that as well. Of course, I'm going to go to a couple songs from Eric B and Rakim. Paid in Full or Ain't No Joke. Which one are you taking?
That's tough. I take Microphone Fiend over both of them, but Paid in Full, just that extended version is, that's the one for me.
All right, yeah, man. Look, I think I listened to both of them this morning. So, I was listening them back. I was like, man, both of these songs are just great.
And the sleepers don't sweat the technique.
Yes. There you go. You're right. Now, going back to Titans, Treylon Burks, he's going to be basically the guy at wide receiver. Do you have him over or under 1,000 yards this year?
I'm going to go under just because, A.J. Brown is the only guy to give you 1,000 yards in quite some time. So I'll take the under, although I do think he's capable of putting up 1,000-yard season. We'll see what this offense presents, though.
Gotcha. All right, going back to music. Outkast or UGK? Which group are you taking?
I'm going to go with Outkast because, Benz or a Beamer, Southern Playalistic, Cadillac Music. But UGK got some bangers, too. That track they had with Mace, I definitely fool with that. But, yeah, I'll go Outkast.
Yeah, definitely. Just a fun fact: my first ever concert I went to, UGK concert in high school.
Mm.
So there we go. Now with the last question I have, with the changes to the O line for the Titans, do you have Derrick Henry over or under 1,500 yards this year?
Mm. I think Derek goes out with a bang, man. I'm going to go over 1,500 because you figure he had 1,500 with that O line last year. I think he could do it with this one.
Okay. All right. Well, 5 questions, 2 answers, 1 choice is over, and you are off the hot seat. Thank you, Turron, for coming on the show, kind of dropping your knowledge and expertise about the Tennessee Titans. After all, you do cover them, you do see them way more than any other person that I know. I just want to, of course, give the floor to you. Tell everyone where they can find you on social media and what all you have going on and coming up.
Yeah, at T Davenport _NFL on Twitter. Just Turron Davenport. I think it's the same on IG. You could just type in Turron Davenport and it'll show up. There's 2 R's, TURRON. ESPN.com, obviously. Definitely check out the NFL page. The Titans version of it is on there. And Talking with TD on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes. I'm actually in studio now getting ready to record this week's edition.
All right. And if you haven't listened to Talking with TD, I suggest that you do, especially when you get Forever Titans wide receiver Chris Sanders come on there and y'all talk about who each other looks like, man. I got a couple for y'all, man, but I'm gonna say those for another time.
Yeah, well, he can't help it. He looks like Tyrone Hill.
Man, that part right there has me rolling every time. But thank you for coming on, and thank you everyone for tuning in and listening to Torn AFC South with your host, Mike Patton. We're out.